Good Sunday afternoon and welcome to Humphrey Coliseum, where Mississippi State Lady Bulldogs, number 7th ranked team in the country, had just finished taking care of Ole Miss as expected. Final score of 80-49. Just a good day here at Humphrey Coliseum. Tierra McGowan double-double, and Andrew Howard a double-double. Good shows all around. A lot of backups get in the game. State wins its 9th straight victory in this rivalry. But also a bigger picture, Steve. Last night, Coach Ben Howland's Bulldogs, number 22 ranked, knock off Auburn. We don't know this for sure. We're going to start researching. Is this the first time Mississippi State on back-to-back days has had over 10,000 people in Humphrey Coliseum?
Well, you know, they were probably about 10,000 here when I saw White Snake and White Lion here, David. But so unofficially, that might be the first time. But
I think the Doobie Brothers and Billy Joel had as much in my day.
And maybe so. But and it's really a testament to our Mississippi State fans because even, you know, Ole Miss's women's basketball coach, Yolette McPhee-McEwen said, you know, it's difficult when you have a weekend where you've got home basketball games for men and women, and she even said as much as that I hate it when our men play because it hurts our crowd. Well, not here at Mississippi State, and that's not to be critical of Ole Miss. It's just to point out that our fans dedicated to basketball, and it's been one of these tug of wars where the women have outdrawn the men. It's nice to have the weekend where it all comes together. And David, from what I understand, it's actually the 10th straight win over Ole Miss rather than the 9th straight.
That's right.
So, yeah.
9 coming in today was the 10th. And for a series that at one time was 49-1 in favor of the other team. Quite a comment on what Coach Vic Schaefer has done to the point now where this rivalry is taken for granted, really.
It's true, and that's one of the things you think about. And Vic Schaefer said many times, it's not who we play, but how we play. And you kind of saw that today. But one thing that I will say, it does seem like State coast a little bit once they get a lead. It seemed like with second quarter, State played about as well as they can play defensively. It really ratcheted things up, got some separation. In the second half, it did seem like they went through the motions. And Vic Schaefer kind of said as much and said, you know, we get disinterested really, really easy. And you can watch his full comments on the site today. But that's a part of it. If this team was fully engaged for 40 minutes, David, it's unbelievable to think about what they could accomplish.
Well, who's fully engaged are Bulldog basketball fans, and the atmosphere is back in Humphrey Coliseum, not just for the Lady Dogs, but for men's as well, as they go into a week now where they have games at Alabama and at Ole Miss. Thinking over which games I'll be covering, I'll probably make a trip to Oxford this weekend. I think the Lady Bulldogs also on the road 2 games, so the fans get to rest a little bit. Basketball's back. Things are going well here towards the end of January. All right, we've got a lot of ground to cover today. Yesterday, Baseball Media Day. Yourself, Robbie, Mike, and myself did a lot of interviews. We put up the video yesterday. And by the way, fans, if you haven't seen it yet, look for the Jake Mangum interview and check out the last 2 minutes. It's an epic comment by a current Diamond Dog saying as much about the state of the program now and the history of the program. It will almost bring tears to your eyes, and it should be used forever as an advertisement for this university and this baseball program.
And, David, we're going to have that Monday. We're going to post that for free for all Mississippi State fans. We'll have that on the site tomorrow. And you're right, David. Even when you're sitting there, it gives you chills hearing him talking about playing, you know, for the M over S and what that means. And, you know, David, I'm a huge Jake Mangum fan, always have been. But when you think about the names in this program and you think about Clark, Palmero, and Bradley, and then when you look at what this kid has done, and he's not a kid anymore, but, you know, he's won an SEC championship, gone to 3 straight Super Regionals, and then on to Omaha. I mean, his resume as a Diamond Dog is as good as anybody in the country, I mean, in our history. Not to mention he's an All-American again, I guess, for the 3rd straight year.
So Diamond Dogs in full practice now. We'll have another chance to talk to Coach Chris Lamonis in coming weeks, but a lot of material coming this week with a lot of features by the crew here. All right. Big news of the day off the basketball court, football field. Coach Brian Baker does accept the offer from Alabama. Maybe a little interesting timing on that, giving official visits happening yesterday. But from what we understand, Coach Joe Murray was not blindsided by this. And much like this past week, where he moved very quickly to fill the offensive openings at the wide receiver and running back positions, we understand he's in working quickly to take care of this defensive line position as well. Yeah,
we've heard that there could be a hire as early as today. It may not be an announcement today, but I understand that Brian Baker was forthcoming once the true interest from Alabama kind of ratcheted up. And it's very frustrating for Dog fans because on Monday, Brian Baker and Bob Shute both signed an extension with Mississippi State, so you feel like the coast is clear, only to have a situation like this unfold. And, you know, David, we talked to a lot of people. They simply bought out the contract. And so State.
Yes, and that's the point, State fans. There is a penalty clause in that because the new contract signed that Alabama is now paying Mississippi State to buy off one of their coaches.
2 coaches. They had to buy out the Huff contract and the Brian Baker contract. But it is frustrating. And I understand some Bulldog fans, you kind of want to throw your hands up like, oh, my gosh, I thought the coast was clear here. Now they take our coach. And that's the reality of things, and that's the business. And it's just the downside of this conference at times. You know, when you've got talented coaches, and Brian Baker has recruited at a high level and produced some quality players. Sometimes people swoop in and take your better coaches. And so Joe Moorhead was prepared in some respects because Brian Baker did let him know when Alabama made a true advancement, and he began looking for replacements. And so while you would prefer to have had Brian Baker here, State's going to have a defensive line coach. We're still going to play football and be ready to go and still have a pretty good team on the field next year.
As I mentioned, he was able to fill the offensive running back and wide receiver positions pretty quickly there. What have you found out since we announced hiring? By the way, congratulations on breaking those stories. On what have you learned more about Coach Richardson and Coach Johnson that maybe was not in the stories?
Well, the one thing, Richardson's a guy that he and Joe have kind of followed each other's careers even when they haven't been together. And so Richardson's a guy that believes that he can recruit at a high level. He's got a very good reputation for recruiting in Florida. He doesn't really want a lot of developmental guys, from what I understand. He wants to be able to go recruit the guys that are going to be able to come into the SEC and be able to play. And they'll obviously development piece is part of it, but he's not looking for diamonds in the rough. He's trying to go mining for diamonds first. And then Michael Johnson's a guy that's been closely affiliated with the Under Armour game for many years in that camp series there. So he already has a relationship with many of these players in Mississippi, Jonathan Mingo being one, Jerry and Jones, Jerry and Ely. So it's not like he's having to introduce himself to these longtime Mississippi State targets. And so that's helpful. Along the defensive line front, David, we've heard a couple names not quite comfortable enough to put them out yet, because when we put something out there, we want to have some credibility with what we say. But based on the information that we've heard today, it does appear that there are two priority targets, both with extensive recruiting ties in the Southeast, both with SEC coaching experience.
So that's positive news for all the fans ready to jump off a bridge at the moment about how everything's happening. All right, give them some reassuring news from this weekend's recruiting visits. I think, 7 prospects were on campus this week?
Yeah, we had 7, and spoke to Nathan Pickering, longtime Mississippi State commitment All-American defensive tackle from Seminary High School. He says the Brian Baker news has no impact on him, and that's good news to Bulldog fans. That's probably the best news of the weekend that they're hearing this. Now, listen. Signing day's not today.
10 days away.
Still got to continue working on that. But he says, listen, I might even shut this thing down. Might not even take a visit anywhere next weekend. And so that's something that we'll monitor. I'm always one to kind of err on the side of caution when it comes to recruiting. I'm going to expect him to take a visit next weekend until I get the all clear on Friday night that he stayed home or played basketball or whatever. But the bottom line is, as of today, this news has not shaken him. It has not shaken his commitment to Mississippi State. It has not caused his family to have pause. They are committed to Mississippi State, and as he said, he committed to a program, not a coach.
Now, I believe you had a crystal ball this week.
I had a couple. A crystal ball. Colin Duncan is one for sure that came in this weekend, had a big visit. But the big one that everybody's talking about is Jonathan Mingo. The information that I have is that that situation now is Mississippi State is in the best position they have ever been, and a lot of that, I believe, has to do with Michael Johnson being hired. I also believe it has to do with an offensive change in philosophy at Ole Miss and the fact that many of his friends are coming here for their college football season. And so there's a lot of factors involved. Let's just say I'm kind of playing with an insider tip here, but a lot that can happen between now and National Signing Day. But as of today, even on the heels of an official visit to Ole Miss, I feel like Mississippi State has made considerable ground in that recruitment.
So as I said, a lot of ground to cover today here with various sports. Obviously, great things: basketball, baseball getting underway. I know in a couple of days the big features out by Robbie Falk. He's interviewed J.T. Ginn. I know he'll have something on a freshman everybody wants to know lots about. I know I was able to talk to Cole Gordon and Tanner Allen. Steve, you talked to a couple of players as well. And, of course, we have the Jake Mangum video that you promised that will be coming out tomorrow. So a lot of baseball material and then the football, and we'll be looking for that. We'll start researching defensive line coaches as soon as we get home from Humphrey Coliseum tonight and see what Moorhead's doing. And, again, we're 10 days away from the second signing period.
We are, and David, it's one of those deals, too, where there's a big news story every day this time of year. When you get to the final 2 weeks of recruiting, there's a major development every day. Either a kid commits to you, commits somewhere else, schedules a visit, cancels a visit. So this is going to be the roller coaster. And it's not for the faint of heart. But these last 10 days, with all the balls that are in the air, State's going to grab some are going to fall to the wayside. But the bottom line is it's going to be an exciting time. And there's no better time to be a member at Gene's Peak 247.
And speaking of grabbing the ball, you should have been here at Humphrey Coliseum today for the second half kiss cam when everybody's favorite mascot came dancing out on the floor with the golden egg and got plenty of kisses on that. So that ball is definitely in the grasp. So for our whole crew at Gene's Page 24/7, for Gene's Gonzalez, Mike Nemeth, Robbie Falk, Steve Robertson, Paul Jones, and myself, David Murray, here at Hunter Coliseum, a lot of news happening and a lot more on the way. Stay up with all of it here on Gene's Page 24/7.